chaos, violence continues to rock the entire Middle East, with a conflict that some believe could erupt into a major global conflict and war. But is the biggest threat to America actually coming from within? Because in every major city, every state, there are leftists who exhibit more fidelity to the people of Gaza than Americans who are murdered and taken hostage by terrorists, by Israelis murdered and taken hostage. In fact, for weeks now, we have witnessed some of these individuals make excuse after excuse, and in many cases even celebrating the barbaric acts perpetrated by the terrorist group Hamas, and even speaking out in support of Hamas. This is not a fringe group of lunatics either. We're talking about college professors, many college students at our finest universities, healthcare providers, bankers, prominent celebrities, even members of Congress. They clearly hate Israel and the Jewish people that live there, and supposedly they loathe capitalism. They detest the very idea of America, although they really seem to enjoy living here. But of course, this seditious hatred and bigotry extends all the way to the East River in New York, where the United Nations is wrought historically with anti-Americanism and anti-Semitism. For example, today, listen to the UN Secretary General and the list of excuses for the actions, the terrorist actions of Hamas. Take a look.
It is important to also recognize the attacks by Hamas did not happen in a vacuum. The Palestinian people have been subjected to 56 years of suffocating occupation. They have seen their land steadily devoured by settlements and plagued by violence, their economy stifled, their people displaced, and their homes demolished. Their hopes for a political solution to their plight have been vanishing.
I've said this for some time because of the anti-Americanism, the virulent anti-Semitism. It is time, frankly, as far as I'm concerned, for the UN to be evicted from America. They're an anti-American organization. They serve no purpose. They take up valuable real estate in New York City that it doesn't deserve. And we, the taxpayers, we pay the bulk of monies just for the privilege of being hated, as well as our closest ally, Israel. And while we're at it, let's cut all ties and funding to all these globalist organizations. The WHO, they covered up for the communist Chinese and COVID. The WEF, they want nothing but worldwide socialism. Or the idiotic Paris Climate Accords, where we pay the bulk of money and India and China are recognized as developing nations and pay next to nothing. And by the way, while we're at it, let's get rid of every other anti-American globalist organization. When was the last time one of these groups actually made anybody's life better? Probably never. So let's invite the world's brainless, spineless, self-important diplomats. Let them clog the traffic of some other country. I say China. Let China have the UN, and they can spend the billions annually to keep that failing institution running. Now, sadly, we've come to expect this kind of extremism from diplomats around the world. But it's far more shocking to see the massive pro-Hamas protests on American streets in city after city after city. People holding signs that call for a global Islamic revolution, others praising the brutal actions of Hamas, including the rape, the murder, the torture, the families burned alive, the kids abducted, the babies beheaded. Some even ripping down posters featuring the missing American and Israeli children now being held hostage by Hamas. This is evil. It is happening in real time, in our time. What kind of person tears down a poster of a missing child? Far left hatred, bigotry is seemingly everywhere in this country in numbers that I don't think anybody expected. And that's why the White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, was unable to condemn anti-Semitism yesterday and instead only wanted to talk about Islamophobia. Take a look at this.
What is his level of concern right now about the potential rise of anti-Semitism in light of everything that's going on in Israel?
So a couple of things. We have not seen any credible threats. I know there's been always questions about credible threats, and so just want to make sure that that's out there. But look, Muslim and those perceived to be Muslim have endured a disproportionate number of hate-fueled attacks. And certainly President Biden understands that many of our Muslim, Arab, Arab Americans and Palestinian American loved ones and neighbors are worried about the hate being directed at their community.
Nice way to flip that. Anyway, KJP later clarified her remarks and said that she misheard the question, which seems to be a very common theme in the Biden administration these days. Joe misheard the question 2 other times this week. Now, the Hamas sympathizers in the Free Palestine crowd are demanding that Israel do nothing. They're all calling for a ceasefire after Israel has had the worst terror attack on their soil in their history. Now, of course, it would be a one-sided ceasefire. Hamas is launching thousands of rockets daily and has previously broken every single ceasefire that has ever been agreed to. Over the years, tens and tens and tens of thousands of rockets have been fired from Gaza, from Lebanon, Hezbollah, into Israel. This has to end. Israel cannot function with that number of rockets being fired at their country every single solitary week. The Free Palestine crowd, they don't really want a ceasefire. They just want to give Hamas more time to reload, resupply, and while they're at it, probably setting booby traps when the incursion of Israel occurs. Now, by the way, the same crowd doesn't actually want the Palestinian people to be free, because if that was the case, they would be calling for Hamas to be annihilated. The terrorist rulers of Gaza, they don't allow anyone to be free. There's no freedom of speech. There's no freedom of religion. There's no freedom of the press. There's no free and fair elections. And look at how they treat minorities. Many are executed. Anyway, but the Free Palestine crowd, they don't care. That would be too truthful for them. They don't care about freedom at all. They just want Hamas to push Israel into the sea and in the process killing as many Jews as possible, and then they would justify it all away. That is what is in Hamas's charter. That is what they have vowed to do. We should start paying attention to their own words. But the hate, the hysteria is now so bad on the left that even Hillary Clinton is getting heckled. Watch this.
Who is
warmongering speech. President Joe Biden is calling for $100 billion of funding for Israel, Taiwan, and Ukraine, and we're supposed to just bundle these together and pretend like we're going to rush to World War III and we're all just going to let Hillary Rodham just sit here. Okay.
I'm sorry. You know, this is not the way to have a conversation. If you want to have a conversation, you're welcome to come talk to me afterwards.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
You're going to wait for me, right?
I will wait for you, and I will listen to you, and I will respond to you. But
Respectfully, I do not believe.
Well, that just
the matter is that the American people's voice are what need to be heard.
Yeah, they are being heard.
The president is not speaking for the American people.
Well, that's your opinion. That's your opinion.
Yes, that's my opinion.
Well, then sit down. We've heard your opinion.
Wow. The left loves it when Hillary Clinton lectures us about the evils of stolen elections while perpetuating the Russia hoax. But they just can't seem to tolerate her when she voices support for Israel. And meanwhile, former President Obama, he's now more than happy to lecture the country about both sides of the conflict in the Middle East also. By the way, Barack, spare us your lectures. Remember, it was Obama who was the first idiot as president that sent billions to Iran in exchange for absolutely nothing, while Iranian proxies were murdering American soldiers in Iraq at the time. Obama, he was helping to make them rich. And naturally, Biden picked up where Barack left off. And here we are on the precipice of yet another war. But according to reports, Biden is encouraging Israel to delay the ground invasion to negotiate the release of more hostages. Let me be clear. Nobody wants every hostage released more than I do. Every one of them, including every American. But why on earth do Democrats put so much faith and hope into the murdering terrorists who just brutalized southern Israel, the ones that were killing little babies and even beheading them? Because that doesn't seem wise. It doesn't seem particularly hopeful to me. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.